Welcome in. In this video, I'm going to be talking about workplace mobbing. I've seen some troubling narratives about workplace mobbing and gang stalking online, so I wanted to shed some truth from a spiritual and psychological perspective, what like gang stalking or workplace mobbing is. I think gang stalking is a really common thing in the spiritual community, but you know, we don't need to learn about these things from a place of like fear and giving away our power. There's actually very like grounded psychological and spiritual mechanics that cause like dynamics like mobbing or hive mind type things, and so I'm going to get into it today. So narcissistic systems have conditions of life, your conditioning, and what that means is that to be safe, really, I was gonna say safe, loved, and accepted, but you're never really loved and accepted in a narcissistic system. But to be safe, you have to abide by conditions, and those conditions are often things like not speaking the truth, not standing up to abusers, not shining your light, like not being good at something, not outshining the narcissist or the person who's like at the top of the social hierarchy. Those are just some conditions of a narcissistic system. And so what this means is that when you start to heal and develop boundaries, confidence, self-worth, and internal safety and strength, you stop meeting those conditions. So when you enter a narcissistic system and you're not meeting the conditions, you may experience what's known as workplace mobbing or gang stalking, because you are threatening the narcissist's control. I don't know if you guys can hear, my cat is like going crazy right now. because hello, come say hello. What's that face? Okay. But yeah, so basically, I do want to like clarify though that a lot of people can be under the conditioning that if someone harms you, or if someone goes after you, or if a group of people go after you, that you're automatically the problem. And I just want to say that this is not true. And conditioning is one of the reasons why this is not true. If you don't meet the conditions of a narcissistic system, narcissists will go after you. And oftentimes what is happening is like a flying monkey dynamic. So it's like a narcissist may climb to the top of a corporate chain, and maybe not even the top, like maybe they're a manager or whatever. They may climb to the top in some leadership position, and then they start manipulating people. So they will, expect and demand a lot from their employees and then take credit for it in the meetings. Or they will do as little work as possible, but then like gaslight people and make people feel bad so no one notices that they're doing as little work as possible. So like manipulating the system that they're working in, okay? So when you come into a workplace like that with excellence, self-worth, and boundaries, you're threatening the narcissist's illusion, like what the narcissist wants, which is to manipulate people and do the least work possible, or whatever their motive is. They could have many, many motives, but you're threatening what the narcissist wants. And so what happens is this sort of backlash where the narcissist then may start telling smear campaigns about you. And the reason why these smear campaigns work is because people have their own conditioning. So for example, I'll tell you a story. I once worked at a workplace that was super toxic and abusive. Like, just walking in there was like a gaslighting frequency, and it was like, whoa. I only stayed there for like 3 days. But there was a really high conflict individual that worked there who was constantly complaining about how mean and awful her guests were. And, there's a difference between accurately identifying mean people and, complaining about it to start drama. So there was this like really shy girl who also worked there, and this one coworker would always tell her how mean the guests were. And I remember I was shadowing her, and we were serving these guests, and they were normal and polite, and like everything went fine. And she told me about how like terrified she was of those guests because of what the other girl said about them. And this is what I mean by conditioning. It's like people who have been through a lot, they hear the smear campaigns and they don't question it because they get so terrified. And and that's not, I'm not shaming anyone. Like, that's sad. Like, my heart is like breaking a little bit right now thinking about that girl, because I tried to support her as much as I could, but it was so sad to see that, how she was living in such fear, and how messed up this all is. Like, you know? So anyway, so this is what narcissists do. They kind of pick and choose people who have a lot of conditioning, who have a lot of fear, and have like a lot of like trauma. And then what they'll do is, when they say like someone is nasty and dangerous, people get really scared and they believe it and they feel really afraid. And so then they kind of just automatically see you as the problem. And so those people will like stay silent, they won't question things. And then there's other individuals who might get really angry, like people who have a predisposition for violence, or like who are really seeking to hurt people. Like, I'm not okay with that, but I just want to make it clear, this shit is unacceptable. But people who have a predisposition for violence, when they hear a smear campaign, they're like, ooh, this is my shot. I can like do things to them without consequences. Like, some people think like that. So when you're in a narcissistic system, you'll have a mix of people who are really scared, people who are like quick to jump in on the emotional violence of the whole thing. People who are like, yes, this is my chance. And people who will like jump in at any opportunity to like harm people without consequences. Because some people know, like, you know, if the top narcissist leader is starting a smear campaign, then, you know, you're free game. You're free game to them because there won't be any consequences. So, this is the dynamics of workplace mobbing. It's usually some narcissist has a motive, and your excellence, your boundaries, your self-worth threatens that motive, you know. In a lot of narcissistic systems, also, please feel free to leave your honest feedback in the comments. I want to know how my work impacts you. If I'm talking too fast, if it's a little bit too overwhelming, if you think that like more in-depth breakdowns would be better, like slowing down and breaking it down more, please let me know. I really want to hear from you. I'm here. I want to assist you. But anyway, so what were we talking about? Conditioning. No, we are not talking about conditioning. So in narcissistic systems, there's like this subtle rule that like you can't shine. And that rule comes from like, if you shine, you expose that a narcissist is intentionally being lazy, right? If you shine, you expose that, you know, the people in the narcissistic system are worthy and are capable, and that there's not something fundamentally wrong with them, right? And that they're not failing because they're bad. They're failing because of the narcissists, right? So when you're excellent and you're in a narcissistic system and you're like doing great, you threaten that control. You threaten that narrative that everyone's just like incompetent, especially when you support people and when you like give them compliments that are coming from a real place. And also when you talk to the outcasted scapegoats, you know, you become a threat because you make their narratives look fake, right? You know what I mean? Because if one person starts talking to the scapegoat and is like, yeah, this scapegoat is awesome, like I love this person, then people start questioning the narcissist smear campaign. And some narcissists can be very malicious in the sense that like they don't care about you. They'll only care about themselves and their motives and what they want. So they'll destroy your life, destroy your finances, just in an attempt to keep their life going. And it's wrong and it's hurtful. And these things are really painful and hurtful and awful. But I hope that this helps to, you know, make some sense to you about like, if this has happened to you, why it happens to you. It's not that, you know, bad people get punished because they've done something wrong. It is possible to be innocent and still be mobbed. It is possible to not be innocent and be mobbed. So just want to make that clear. But also this has to do with growth. Workplace mobbing has to do with growth. So, you know, when you grow out of a system, you know, you're no longer compatible with that system. It's not that like people are against you. It's just that like you have learned all of the lessons that needed to be learned. And so if I could give you like one piece of advice, if you're going through this, what I would say is that continue doing your inner work and continue working through your illusions. So in the universe, patterns repeat. I'm not a professional, so like I'm telling you like what I've done on my journey and what's helped me. So take it or leave it. But when you in the universe, patterns repeat. So what that means is that if you kind of like have trauma at one workplace and you grow and you learn from it, you might enter another workplace with really similar people, and then you can kind of look at your growth, like how fast you saw through it, and maybe it'll show you things that you didn't really see in your first workplace or in the first environment. Because it's like when we're really conditioned, we don't really hear or see as much of what's actually going on. Like we might be in survival mode, we might be, you know, kind of like brushing off like really abusive behaviors as normal, or in such confusion and doubt that it's hard for us to see. But when you really grow and you enter another environment, you might be able to, you know, almost like get a sense of closure. Like I don't want to say go into toxic environments to get closure, but like almost like get a sense of closure of like, whoa, with my new eyes, I can see that I was right. You know, that, you know, at the first place when I always felt bad, and I was right, you know. And you can kind of like validate your own intuition. It's kind of like building your own self-trust through your own experiences. So yeah, I hope this was helpful for you, and I'm so sorry if you're going through this, because I know how it feels and it's a really painful experience.